All right, let's talk about the invisible architecture that runs our lives. Today, we are digging into a powerful and maybe even uncomfortable truth. Your success might have way less to do with your talent and a whole lot more to do with your position in the network. Let's dive in.
We all grew up with this story, right? It's the big myth we tell ourselves to make sense of the world. You know the one, the genius in the garage, the scrappy entrepreneur who builds an empire from nothing. It's this powerful idea that if you just work hard enough, you'll make it.
But what if that whole level playing field thing is just an illusion? What if success isn't some nice bell curve where most of us are in the middle, but it's more like a super steep ski slope? A tiny, tiny few are at the peak and pretty much everyone else is at the bottom. And look, this isn't me being a cynic. This is just math.
And that brings us right to the heart of what we're talking about today, topology. See, in our world of networks and AI, the actual structure of the system, its topology, that's your destiny. So let's break down exactly what that means.
This isn't some philosophical quote. It's basically a law of physics for our economy. The structure of the web you find yourself in, that matters more than literally anything you do inside of it. Think about it this way. It's not about how hard you pedal. It's about which road you're on to begin with.
So how does this actually happen? Well, it's not some grand conspiracy. It's just math. Let's get into the simple but incredibly powerful mathematics that govern these networks and end up creating such massive, massive inequality. You know, real-world networks, the internet, your social circles, our economic systems, they aren't these nice, neat, democratic grits. They naturally fall into a pattern called a power law. Just picture a city skyline. You've got a couple of super tall skyscrapers and then a huge number of much, much smaller buildings. This isn't a mistake or a bug in the system. It's just how networks grow. And the reason this happens is because of an incredibly simple rule. It's called preferential attachment. Basically, new things, new people, new money, new ideas are way more likely to connect to the things that are already popular. It creates this crazy feedback loop. The rich get richer, not because they're better, but because of mathematical inevitability. It's why a handful of cities attract all the talent and a few websites get all the traffic.
And this story just illustrates the point perfectly. Back in 2004, you had Mark Zuckerberg, a pretty good programmer at Harvard. At the exact same time, let's imagine Rakesh, a truly brilliant programmer over in Mumbai. Rakesh's code was way better, but his position in the network was worse. Zuckerberg was surrounded by future world leaders and was just a couple handshakes away from venture capitalists like Peter Thiel. Rakesh, he was connected to local businesses. The talent was with Rakesh, the topology was with Zuckerberg. And well, we all know how that story played out.
And you see this pattern everywhere. Think you have a real voice online? Well, get this. About 1% of users generate something like 90% of the content that we all see. The network itself is designed to funnel all the attention to a tiny, tiny minority.
Or, hey, maybe you think you have a fair shot at getting your startup funded. The numbers tell a different story. A minuscule 0.1% of startups get a staggering 41% of all venture capital funding. Once again, the money just flows to those who are already connected.
And what about owning a piece of the world? The top 1% of the population holds about 50% of all stocks. This isn't the market failing. No, this is the network operating exactly as it's designed to. To ask for equality in a system like this, that's like asking for water to flow uphill. The topology itself forbids it. This network structure actually gives us the first real physical explanation for that famous theory from Thomas Piketty that R is greater than G. G, economic growth, that's the linear world of human effort. It's where most of us live and work. But R, the return on capital, that's the exponential, self-multiplying world of capital and networks. It's where you are if you're at the center of the web. The gap between them isn't some flaw in capitalism. It's a geometric certainty of the network itself.
Okay, so we've established that our economic fate really depends on the network structure we're stuck in. So let's look at the two big ones, the two fundamental architectures of power that we all live and work inside of.
The first one, and by far the most common, is the hub and spoke model. Just picture a bicycle wheel. This whole setup is perfectly designed for one thing and one thing only: extraction.
Amazon's marketplace is the perfect, and I mean perfect, example of this. You've got 3 million sellers, they're the spokes. They can only connect to customers through the central hub, Amazon. So the sellers do all the work, they take all the risk, but Amazon sets all the rules, takes a huge cut, and they own the customer relationship. The spokes are totally interchangeable, totally powerless. And the crazier part? The harder they work, the more powerful the hub becomes. It's basically digital sharecropping.
So that's the extraction engine.
The second major structure is something called a small world network. And this is the topology that acts as the engine of innovation.
For this one, picture a bunch of tightly knit clusters of people, like teams in a company or different research labs. And then you have these occasional bridges that connect them. Ideas bubble up inside a cluster, and then they jump across one of those bridges, and boom, that's where you get these unexpected, innovative combinations. Silicon Valley is a perfect real-world example of this. But, and this is a big but, here's the catch. While this network creates incredible innovation, it also concentrates all the rewards. If you're inside the right cluster, you get wealthy. If you're on the outside, it doesn't matter how talented you are. You're basically irrelevant.
So, all of this high-level, abstract stuff, this brings it all right back down to you. Because understanding these forces isn't just some academic exercise. No, it's a tool. It's a map for navigating your own life and career in a world that, let's be honest, is not what it seems. So I'll leave you with this final, really crucial question. Take a hard look at your own career, your own life. Where are you in this massive, invisible web? Are you a spoke in an extraction engine, just working harder and harder to make the central hub stronger? Or are you a node in an innovation cluster, positioned right where new ideas and opportunities are actually born? Your answer to that question might just determine everything.